Hey, this is Cameron, and welcome to the practice log. Alright, well, we got a lot of stuff to do today, so let's go ahead and jump into it, shall we? Guess where I've been? Yeah, I've been at the gym, repping my Julian Bream shirt, of course, hitting some sets, people Myron, you know what I'm saying? It was a good workout, but I think I'm ready to practice now, which, there's an interesting thing with working out and then immediately practicing. My, nervous system from, gripping the cold steel is all shot, so then when I go to play, my hands feel really weird. So, I think that it'll be good for me to try to overcome that and see if I can get my hands feeling normal by the time I have to play something for you. Because that's the thing that high-level performers do, or at least I've heard them do. They'll do things like hold ice cubes for a bit until they can't stand it anymore and then try to play their repertoire. Just to put yourself in the worst conditions possible. Just to see how well can you play under that kind of situation. So, imagine if I was at the gym going hard and then I was called for you gotta play your fugue right now. It's alright, let's see how it comes out then. But I'll be able to play for an hour or so. I've of course already practiced a bit today, all scale work. I'm going to do more scale work and then repertoire. But before I do any of that, I'm going to jump into a question because, that's what we do here. We answer questions. And this actually isn't a question. This is a comment. This is maybe considered a hate comment. It's not really though. He's just kind of saying stuff without really thinking about it too much, I do the same thing. I'm guilty of that. But this is a comment from my Guitar Loser Reviews Perfect Pitch training videos. That was a real controversial one, I guess. Be sure to watch that so you can watch me do perfect pitch training for 20 minutes. Riveting content, I know. Welcome to Sore Hands. But this comes from Woody Games UK. If you're watching, which you might not be because I feel like you just clicked on that video alone and you're not somebody who watches. But let me know, are you friend of the channel? Let's see if you see this. And keep in mind, I was playing this perfect pitch video thing and I was identifying notes and it was just going through the chromatic scale after a while, and I'm somewhat reliable with it. Not perfectly reliable. If I have a reference note in mind, I am, and usually the reference note can be C. It can be any note. It doesn't really matter. I just might have to think about it a little bit more if it's not C. Because I'm thinking about solfege first. So I have the reference note, and then I hear the solfege, and then I figure out what note it is. Because solfege is just easier to think in. And I'm not using fixed do solfege. Fixed do solfege is freaking dumb. Don't do that. Just always consider your root do. Don't mess with fixed. And if you don't know what fixed solfege is, that's where C, true concert C, is always do. And so if you're in D, you're calling that re still. So it'd be re, mi, fi, sol. But really that's do, re, mi, fa, whole step, half step. But you said, haha, you're a good musician. Thanks. Thank you for that. What else you gotta say? But when it comes to hearing skills, you're basically a beginner. Oh, basically a beginner, eh? My friend, have a little respect, please. I've only been at this for 15 years. And though I don't train my ear or anything, but I do have an ear, and calling that a beginner's ear is pretty disrespectful to I don't know, me when I was 18 or anyone else. I can identify single notes of the chromatic scale 93 to 95% reliably, but I'm a beginner, and if you can't do that, you are less than a beginner. You're not even a beginner. What are you? You're a baby. I've got to be more than a beginner. I mean, come on, man. That's so rough. No way to hide it. Hearing note clusters is basically one skill used the most to transcribe. Oh, is it? Which I actually said, I used the term tone clusters. Tone cluster, I looked it up. It has to be 3 notes, half steps apart. I mean, I was just talking about half steps, but I was just calling those clusters. Oh, that's the main skill used for transcribing? Identifying note clusters? Half steps? No, it's not. Half steps are not the most common interval to identify. That's just not true. What are you transcribing, Stravinsky? You realize there's already sheet music for that, right? I'm just kidding, I know. The most common thing used to transcribe is the fundamentals of harmony. The stuff that is used often. What each interval sounds like in the context of music. I struggle with identifying random tone clusters in the chromatic scale without context of music. I feel that's the hardest thing to identify. That's basically identifying atonal music using only the previous notes as a reference. Most stuff that you're going to transcribe, unless you're getting really out there, is going to have some sort of tonal context, and that is going to help you with identifying the notes. There was no tonal context in the video that I was watching. It was just random notes. To say that I'm a beginner for not being able to do that reliably, I'm getting defensive. I don't care. I can defend myself here. What can you do? All you can do is write a comment. Go ahead and write your comment comment. I'll make a video about it. That's what I get to do. Some people use transcribing as their #1 way to learn and practice music. It doesn't mean that they can't read music. Well, yeah, if you're transcribing, I assume that you can read it. Believe it or not, I've actually transcribed quite a few things. Admittedly, never without a guitar in my hands. I don't just transcribe, like, only by ear. Being able to transcribe in real time up to a certain level of complexity is incredibly valuable and convenient. Yeah, it is. I can't transcribe in real time that well. I did take classes in doing that, and the way that it was called aural skills, and you take 4 semesters of it typically in, like, university. Like, everybody just has to do that unless you exempt out of it, which I did not. And it wasn't about identifying random notes. It was learning the, like, standard chord progressions and voice leading. And if you know those 2 things, if you hear a progression and you assume that the voice leading is correct, or if it sounds correct, you know what the notes are going to be. You're not actually hearing every individual note, but you're hearing everything in context, and you just understand how, like, Western harmony works. And if you know what key you're in, you can write it down. It's like, it has to be these notes. You only have to hear it once. I can't even give specific examples because it's been so long. I don't think about that stuff anymore. But yeah, like, that's how it worked. Like, it wasn't just somebody on a keyboard playing, like, ding, ding, like 2 notes at a time, and you just have to, like, figure out what the notes are. It's valuable and convenient. Yeah, it depends on what style of music you play too. Like, you play jazz, oh my god, of course it's valuable and convenient. Like, I haven't transcribed that many solos. I've transcribed some Charlie Parker because I was obsessed with him for like a year. I didn't find it that hard to transcribe Charlie Parker though, and that might be like an easy thing to transcribe. It is only like a single note saxophone melody, but you pretty much just hear the chords. Like, I would hear an arpeggio, and then you hear the embellishments, and like, it's either going to be whole step or half step embellishments. Everything was pretty obvious. But that doesn't mean that you could take all those notes and put them in random order and like random context and I'd be able to identify them. I would not be able to do that. But if you put them in a very smart context like Charlie Parker did, because he was freaking God, he could put them in a context that a baby could understand, like faster than you can even hear notes. Like, you would slow it down. Like, I had this app called the Amazing Slowdowner, and I would slow Charlie Parker down to like 10% speed, and it sounded like da 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 da, and the rhythms were like tight. It was so perfect. The speed, like, it sounds like nothing, and then you slow it down, and it literally sounds like swung Bach. Charlie Parker's crazy. Yeah, anyways. It would be hard to argue that it doesn't make you a better musician. I didn't say it doesn't make you a better musician. I think what I said was it just isn't useful, which, like, yeah, I know. Maybe I was a little bit, like, hurt that I sucked at it, and I was like, this isn't good for anything anyways. If you can identify notes, especially 2 notes at once without context, yeah, like, you have a really sharp ear. That's really great. Especially if you have a purpose for learning how to do that. Like, if you're somebody who wants to, like, transcribe crazy stuff and you want to have, like, a super sharp ear, then yeah, it is useful. Hard to argue that it doesn't make you a better musician. I guess I found it easy to argue that, but I agree with you, more or less. To me, not being able to hear 2 notes at the same time is equivalent to not being able to read 2 notes on the score at the same time. You can read 2 notes at the same time. If transcribing is like that important to you and you want to only transcribe stuff, then yeah, I guess it is equivalent to that. It's not as important to me. And I'll also say this, when I do transcribe, which here are the situations when I transcribe. If I want to learn a jazz solo, which hasn't happened in a while, if I write a piece of music and I write it away from sheet music, which I do sometimes. Like, when I compose, I do like half and half. I'll write the sheet music out before I ever play it and just like think about it, or I'll just improvise it on guitar and then it'll sort of solidify into this thing that I repeat, and it's like, well, that's the piece. And if I don't consider timing that much, I need to like figure out the timing and like what note durations am I going to use? What time signature am I going to pick? There's all these measures that have like added beats or like subtracted beats. How am I going to write that out? Like, sometimes when I write music, I'm just thinking of a continuous pulse, like separate from measures. Like, it's just whatever it needs to be, and then fitting it into like 4/4, 3/4. It feels like the phrase here is 5 beats and then 2 beats and then 3 beats. Do I put separately like 5/4, 3/4, 2/4, whatever? So that's the other situation. I'm not required to do that quickly. If I need to transcribe something, I kind of have all the time I need to do it. So doing it fast isn't really an issue for me. It's not really a skill that I've felt the need to develop. I guess my main issue was just saying that with my current skills, I'm a beginner at that. That feels a little unfair to everyone else. Like, I have the skills to transcribe anything. Like, as long as I have a guitar to like check the notes and the Amazing Slowdowner, that's huge. So, you know, like, is that the beginning phase? All right, whatever, man. That's fine. I know that wasn't a hate comment. You're just voicing your opinion, and that's okay. But I'm gonna talk about it now because you know, why not? Yeah, I don't know. Is that something that I should get better at? Being able to identify like two notes at once with zero context, just like random two notes at once. Maybe. There's one more. Let's look at this. This is just a heated beginning to a practice log just to get me amped about practicing. But this one's from Gamer Gamer. Perpetuating anti-perfect pitch rhetoric. Learning perfect pitch will make you throw up at a detuned piano. I wasn't just pulling that out of my butt. I knew someone who had a son who had perfect pitch. It wasn't piano, but when people would sing out of tune, he said that he would get like ill. Like he would get sick from that. I get it. Like it makes me a little sick too. It's sad to experience that as a kid though. I guess. It doesn't make me like actually sick. If just knowing something is out of tune makes you throw up, that's an issue with you. Yeah, that might be the kind of person that develops perfect pitch at a young age. Like you have musician parents. You might be a little weird. And maybe you're queasy at like a piano being out of tune or something. But that is a real thing. Like I'm not making that up. Like I've definitely heard stories of people being upset by things that aren't an A440, which seems annoying, especially when you consider the benefits of having perfect pitch. Like I think regardless, if you're not trained in whatever kind of music you're trying to transcribe, you're gonna have a hard time transcribing. Because even with perfect pitch, if you hear like 4-part harmony and you don't have like a solid understanding of voice leading, which like keep in mind, I'm saying this like term voice leading, I have a very rudimentary concept of voice leading. Like I'm not like I can't do your voice leading homework for you. Like I've done my own voice leading homework and made like C's and B's on it, and I have like vague ideas of the rules. I have my own copy of Gradus ad Pernacium, the study of counterpoint, Fuchs. I used to read this before bed every night. Not so much anymore. I would read it like the Bible, where I would just read like one chapter at a time and then go to bed and think about it. And even the beginning chapters, I had to read them over and over again and really like play all the examples. And with all that, I sort of have like an ear for what like counterpoint following these rules should sound like. And I am a guitar teacher. I have never taught anything past like very basic counterpoint. I'm not like an actual composer. I'm like a guitar improv composer. If you don't know counterpoint that well, we're more like impressionists with things, you know? I'm not like writing fugues and stuff. Wait, what was I even saying? Oh my god. Even if you have perfect pitch, if you aren't trained in like Western harmony and you're asked to transcribe like a chord progression with like specific voice leading, you're still gonna struggle, like I feel, because it's just a lot of notes to identify. Like you're gonna have to hear it over and over again. Obviously, you're gonna do way better than somebody who also isn't trained in harmony. But if you take somebody who is, and like even if they don't have perfect pitch, they'll be able to pretty reliably tell you what the chord progression is with the actual voicings of the 4-part harmony, just because they know what it has to be. If it's this chord going to this chord, and it's like you hear the bass and you hear the melody and you can identify them, there's like not that many options like in there, like kind of obvious. So yeah, again, like the skills that you would get from identifying like clusters if you're transcribing like atonal stuff or like modern Stravinsky type stuff where it's just a lot of banging around. In that case, that would be pretty tough. I haven't reached a point in my guitar career where I am identifying stuff like that, so I'm not trained in it. So that's it. Being able to just tell the difference is not going to make you throw up. It might. It depends on how weird your parents are about it. I agree, it's not that much of a useful skill to learn, but if someone wants to learn it, they can. I never said that they can't, I just said that they shouldn't, because it's like stupid. If you want to, you can do whatever you want. It's better than like, I don't know, sitting around doing nothing, scrolling Instagram, get a really sick relative pitch going on. That's better than doing nothing. And if that's your goal as a musician, then like fair enough, achieve your goal. But usually our goal is to like play our instrument more proficiently, learn more repertoire, or learn how to improvise in a more like fluent way. So I would suggest practicing those things. And if you're able to identify any note with little reference or context, it's not going to magically make you better at those other things that actually make you a better musician. That's all I'm saying. But again, if it's your goal, fair enough. All right, well, that was a pretty heated chair section. Sorry, guys. I was just getting some attitude in the comments. Gotta talk about it, of course. Yeah, you know, no hard feelings. It's all good. All right, it's time for me to go to the piano bench. I need to practice. I'll see you there. All right, back to the greasy grind. Let's go ahead and just jump on into it. I'll see you on the other side. Okay, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm feeling pretty good. I kind of want to play some stuff. It's gonna cut right to me playing, but I'm gonna play a bunch of stuff, and I'm just gonna pick what I like the most. How's that sound to you? You get what you get. Let's see what you get. Alright, what was I up to there? I was playing really fast for a lot of that. I don't know, I've just been working on, like, speed and scales and stuff, so I kind of just wanted to try some of it out, just to see how it came out. I'm sure that came out horribly. I should probably keep it slow. That's, like, similar to David Russell speed, I think, except, like, he plays it perfectly, which is absolutely insane. I mean, a lot of today was just scale practice. I'm gonna work on repertoire, like, throughout the day, I think, but I do want to go ahead and wrap it up now. So, I'm sorry if that turned out really bad. You don't have to listen to it, you can always just skip it. I'll see you in the outro. Hey, well, you know, if you made it this far, be sure to subscribe and leave a like. And hey, I'm gonna blast through this all. Hey, want some shirts? Head on down over to Rootin's Delight, link in the description. Send me an email if you want some guitar lessons. I'll give you some classical guitar lessons, strictly classical. Keep it classy, y'all. Member section, there's a member section. Join that. You get first dibs on chair questions, like the ones that I went into today. Unless they're like that and I just want to talk about them, I guess. But I'll answer your questions even if they're boring, because that's what the member section does. You can pay for me to pay attention to you. Whoa, isn't that great? And of course, just comment questions. Feel free to leave them regardless. Oh man, how you doing? Hope you're doing alright. You know, be sure to practice your scales and stuff. Scales are good. I've been liking them. I feel like they've been doing something for me. Alright. I want to wrap this up. I have to teach in like 2 hours or so? No, an hour and a half. Jeez, I need to eat lunch. I haven't eaten anything today. Alright, well, I'll see you tomorrow.